All right, let's do it live on a First Friday Miracle Edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z. It is cold. It's cold. It's cold. How are you? You okay?
It's very cold. I am okay. Got a little frozen pipe ski in the basement, which is always wonderful. But so far
good.
No consequences, and we have eyes on the pipe. We're on it, so it is not split or ruptured or anything like that. But my word, it's freezing out there.
Yeah, this has been a
coldest winter we've had in forever.
I agree. We had that when we had that 30 below air temp game like 3 years ago against the Saints.
That's Christmas Eve. Yeah,
Christmas Eve. That was there, but that was like a stretch of 3 or 4 days. It's been pretty cold for a while. This extreme cold for the last couple of days.
There's been snow on the ground.
20s. It's been snow on the ground all month, right?
All month,
I think.
Yeah.
Didn't it snow like right after Christmas, and then it's been?
I feel like every other day I've cleaned my car off. I've had to scrape my car or clean it off or do something. Yes.
Yeah. I hate shoveling snow. So what I have done throughout this entire month is I have an electric blower, and I just blow it with that. But in order to do it, you can't let it accumulate. Otherwise, it sticks, and then it won't do it. So you got to get it. And I can't even count the amount of times this month that I've gone out and blown it off.
Yeah, too many. Yeah, I mean, this is significant cold. The polar vortex, Miss Kay was telling me how something pushed this polar wind down to us, which is a real treat for us. I saw there was snow in New Orleans.
There was snow on
in Florida?
30A, buddy. Destin, Seaside,
yeah.
Rosemary
4.5
Beach.
inches.
Snow in the Gulf.
Yes. There were people
Like
having
coal.
snowball fights on the beach with the Gulf right there.
Yeah.
That's
the Gulf of America.
I wonder, is that official yet?
I
think
don't
you can
know.
just say whatever you want, and then it would be.
Sure. I'm going
apparently
off of the
there's
latest
a group of there's a multinational organization whose function is it's a geographic institute or cartography institute, and it's their function to, if there are disputed names, to come up with what the name actually is. So I think we can call it that. I don't know if it's going to pass this multinational. Who cares?
I don't care.
I don't care at all.
I got other issues.
Yeah.
Not anything I care about. Yeah, so like you've never had that there. I wonder what is the water temp in the Gulf of Mexico right now? It's got to be warmer than the air. Has to be. It'd be frozen, of course. So like, how warm is it? The Gulf's warm. I mean, you go there
very warm.
You go there in for spring break, and the kids are frolicking in it, even if it's in the 60s. So I have to assume is it still like 70-some degrees?
The Destin. Well, that's a great question.
Hold, please.
Extreme cold warning is in effect for Destin.
Yeah, they've never had it. Buddy of mine texted me from Tallahassee. He's like, we've never had snow.
Never.
No.
Frostbite and hypothermia will
The
occur.
sea temperature in Destin today is 63.
Yeah.
63
Be
degrees.
wild. Be like the opposite of a polar plunge. Like you go into the water to get warm.
Not
I
that
wonder if it
far.
would feel warm.
Not that
You're
far
right.
off the average. 64 January to February, March, April 66. Then it jumps 77 May, and then it's in the 80s through September, back to 77 in October. So it's not actually too far off the norm, 64, but it is being surrounded by great, great coldness.
Yeah.
And the good news is a week from this weekend, which is when we're heading down there, it's back up into the high 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Where are we in the next week? What are we next week? We 38?
They were going to tease 40 at some point over the next 5 or 6
Over the weekend,
days.
right? Which I need.
I'll tell you what's going to be remarkable is when it does hit 40 and this snow starts to melt, because it's been so cold in the 20s for so long. There is a frozen layer on top. So that water,
John Doss.
there he is.
How about it?
I got to tell you, no disrespect. No disrespect.
Oh,
Your excitement made it seem to me as if Al Michaels was walking into the building. Your level of excitement was you lit up.
I like John Doss. I work with him.
I don't know him. I know you do the
Yeah.
Sunday stuff with him
Yeah.
on that.
Fine, man.
So I look up thinking I'm going to see like the biggest and John Doss is a fine luminary here in town. That's wonderful. Love the guy. But I assumed that I was getting monster NFL luminary walking in here.
The funny thing about you saying that is earlier in the show you went like this.
Yeah.
And I thought it had to be swag, and I turned over and it was not swag. It was somebody else. But you weren't gesturing to him. You were just gesturing as you were talking. But the way you gestured with the
like
smile
it was a swag walk?
was like, about to turn into one of these. Yeah.
No, it was not. Yeah.
So a couple false alarms there.
False alarms. Yeah. No fault. It's a legitimate alarm for John Dawson. Very excited to see it.
Yes, on my scale.
Not what I was anticipating based on your reaction.
Sure.
So there you go. So cold everywhere, all over the country. And yes, so I think my hunch is if we get like a 40, I'm guessing you'll get some flooding because the snow is just going to zip.
A lot of it was
Evaporated.
last weekend when it was like 40 degrees.
It kind of rained
Friday
for a
and
little bit this
Saturday.
past weekend.
A lot of our stuff melted.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm still.
I have a little half inch.
No
Zero.
melting. No melting.
No.
There was just an ice layer on top of it,
yes.
layer of ice, so it's even more emboldened.
We don't hit 40 on the east side until Wednesday of next week. We'll get up to 32 on Tuesday. So, yeah.
Yeah. I very much turned into a get off my lawn guy, and we used to do it this way and blah, blah, blah. It's tiring even for me as I'm in it. But I did find myself thinking, like, in a major metropolitan area, you cannot run buses in this. You can't have little kids run into the bus in 7 degrees. Can't have it. I mean, it's craziness. You can't do it.
Is your driveway at all sloped?
Yeah.
Like mine's pretty long and slopes down. It's treacherous walking down the driveway.
Yeah, it is. And that's because what happened Saturday when it rained.
Yeah,
like it was all fine, but then you got that layer of rain, and I went, it's cooked now. So, brutal out there. New offensive coordinator Tommy Rees is going to address the media tomorrow at 10 a.m. The G-Man and Gibby want to know what are the top 4 things Rees should have at the top of his list as Brown's new offensive coordinator. What question would you ask?
I would want to know, just, from a philosophical standpoint, what is your scheme?
Yeah.
What is the scheme that you think is the most effective way to operate an offense consistently in the National Football League?
Will you call plays?
So that would be one of them. What is it that you look for in a quarterback specifically to operate your scheme? What are the must-have traits, and what are the non-negotiable traits that you cannot live with?
Mr. Bishop in the second row.
Is it his scheme?
So next was going to be, are you calling plays?
Yeah.
And how do you envision, or based on your preliminary discussions when you took the job, what was your understanding of what your role would be in terms of this offense vis-a-vis Kevin Stefanski?
Yeah. I think what I would be curious about from Kevin, and we'll probably won't talk to him until the Combine now, but when he joins us,
you'll probably get Reese Tommy while I'm gone.
Potentially. But if we do get Kevin, when we get him at the Combine, what I would be curious about is they're big on processes, right?
Yep.
So what is your off-season process on taking what you have done as an NFL coach on the offensive side of the ball, and now what are the Cleveland Browns offensively going
what is
forward?
Our identity? What is your
what are we?
Scheme, what is the identity?
But that feels like a Kevin.
What do you?
I'll ask it to Tommy if he's in here tomorrow. I'll ask him. Maybe I'll ask him of it in the presser. But like that's a Kevin question, I think, of what are the Cleveland Browns offensively? What's your type?
Well, right, and then that's why I said it goes back to quarterbacks. What are the traits required to run your offense, and what are the non-negotiables, and what are the absolute deal breakers in terms of a quarterback's traits or lack thereof?
Yeah.
Because
that's it.
You need to understand. Well, we don't need to understand. I guess internally it needs to be understood and then taken out onto the football field. But we need to have an identity, and I do think it's important. Some people say, well, you get the best talent and you mold your stuff to them, and I do think that's true to some extent, but to operate particular styles of offense, and if we are going back more to a Kevin Stefanski wide zone play action, more under center than all the shotgun stuff, but still obviously in shotgun and empty at times, Kevin did that plenty. If you're going back to that style of an offense, what are the traits that a quarterback must possess in order to operate that offense consistently effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only thing I would too, I was thinking as you were saying that about how get the most talent and then build the offense around it. You almost have to be like a transcendent talent for have teams do that. I mean, that's like a Mahomes thing. That's like a Lamar thing. Josh probably they finally got there. We tried doing it with Deshaun. There was a Deshaun thing in Houston, absolutely. You have to be so above. You have such an outlier talent wise and skill set wise. That you take somebody like Andy Reid who operates a West Coast offense and goes, okay, this was West Coast. This is what we did. But this guy has these, so let's tweak it and turn it into this. I do think that my hunch would be is that Kevin would want to get back to what he was, and there is a great deal of success in the guys that call it that way and run those type of schemes. They're some of the most successful people there are, and there is a common theme with all of those guys in terms of what they're looking for in a quarterback.
What's interesting is that a few plays away here or there, from those teams still being represented. This year, they're really not still represented in the league. Now, you have Philly, which runs a unique offense that's suited, and I think it can be tailored to the skills of your quarterback, especially if they're ones who are so dangerous with their legs. In Washington, they're running, Cliff's offense, which is much more of a spread shotgun, and Daniels has been so effective with that. Allen, I think they run, Dorsey, and they were the number one offense when Dorsey was there. But it is shotgun. It's a quarterback power run. And then you look at Kansas City, and they've kind of adapted from being wide open to they're kind of a little bit more West Coasty. And Andy Reid, those are certainly his roots.
Yep.
I think that you're totally correct. I think a guy like Mahomes could run any offense. I think a Joe Burrow can run any offense. I mean, you're not going to want him running all the time, but he certainly can do it. I think with Lamar and Allen, it was, okay, here's where we see their big skill sets. Here's what we know they're really good at now, so we're going to use that as the starting point, and then as they develop and flesh out their ability to throw the football consistently, then you get to add all that back in, and I think that's where you've seen Allen and Lamar Jackson end up, and those offenses are incredibly dynamic and potent, and Lamar is as good as it gets. You ideally want a guy who has all the talents that are suited to what you want to do, but is also a transcendent talent in the sense that he can do all of the things out of scheme, all of the things that are dangerous with his legs, everything that makes him a total nightmare for another team to face. And that's why goes back to the whole overall discussion is you're picking second. You hopefully are not picking second again.
Yep.
And as you went back to, we talked about the combine, it was Caleb Williams, then a gap. Well, if this year, let's say it is Cam Ward and then a gap, there's still got to be somebody that you can find. And if we've got a great coach at an OC spot who was a very effective offensive coordinator in college and a quarterback in college, young guy, that he's going to be able to have ideas, I think, that would fit anybody coming out of a college system right now. And then you have Kevin here. So you've got coaches that, in theory, together should be able to maximize whatever talent you get. And there are supremely talented guys. Again, I'm not sitting here saying today that you have to sit at 2 and take a quarterback there, but I truly believe that asset, the asset that is picked number 2 this year, must, whatever circuitous journey you want, and maybe you give it a year to play itself out, but that asset must turn into a legitimate swing at a high-end rookie quarterback prospect.
Yes.
That's it.
It's a get out of jail free card, man. It's a lifeline.
And I've been, it's weird. I don't know if you've been having this, but I've had a lot of people that I've been in, text exchange with or, conversations with, approach with, who are just like, man, nobody likes these quarterbacks. Let's just get the best player available.
Yeah.
And there may be. You can't force it either. There may be, truly, it just feels hard for me to believe that. But we've had, in the time that I've been here, we have had the best left tackle in the game.
Yep.
We've had the best edge rusher in the game.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a preeminent cornerback in the game. And we've had the best guard tandem in the game. Mm-hmm. Legit best.
Yep.
We've had, for a 4-year period, if not the best, I think he was, the first or second best running back in the league.
Yep.
And that has all gotten us to one playoff win and 2 winning seasons.
Mm-hmm.
What didn't I say?
No, I know.
Quarterback.
Now you tried.
At some point, you get to a situation where the reality in the league that we play in, and if you want to be, there are certainly quarterbacks available that if you want to be 9-8, 10-7, potentially win a playoff game, more likely get bounced in the first round, that is a path that certain teams are on. But they're no closer to winning a Super Bowl than you are. In fact, they're probably further. It's all about the quarterback. When you know that every year, starting out, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are in your division, until you can get somebody that can compete with them, maybe your rest of your team be better, but they have to be 90% of those guys, and then you can win in the margins. And then you're saying, oh, but then there's also Patrick Mahomes. Oh, there's also Josh Allen. And then you have plenty of guys that we think are talented, but let's just say those 4 just as a baseline. Nothing else matters until you get somebody that can even have the right to be in that conversation. And what's crazy is, and we can go through this exercise because why not? We certainly have time, but I was talking about this with the great modes. Like if you told me today I had for the next year or 5 years,
okay,
5 quarterbacks. Who are my top 5 quarterbacks in the league under those auspices?
Did I get them for the next 1 to 5?
Yes. Well, I think we just named
you
4
just
of
named
them.
4 of them, and then the 5th one is.
It might be Jaden Daniels.
I'd want to see just a little more
of
because
course.
I would have said C.J. Stroud a year ago.
Fair. But I'm saying as with the information that we have like right now, it's probably Jaden Daniels. It could be Herbert, but now you're saying, whoa, we haven't seen some good postseason
it's
stuff.
Those 4 are locks, and then
yes.
and you could make an argument for 3 or 4 AFC guys, and then Daniels would be there based on what he's done. Yeah, I mean it's those 4 for sure.
Right.
And they're all next 1 to 5.
Right. So you've got to be able to compete with that. My point is, Jaden Daniels is actually legit in that conversation right now because of what he's done, and he wasn't considered the top quarterback prospect in his draft.
I think that one thing that really bothers me, yes, I've had that conversation. You've had a bunch. The amount of times I've heard people say, we got to fix those offensive lines. The guy doesn't have any time. It makes me want to hurl myself through a window. One point my wife goes, that was a little harsh. One of her uncles said something to me, and I kind of just lit him up, and I'm like, dude, I'm just so sick of hearing it. Like, it's just not accurate. And I don't know where it comes from, this notion that you have to get all these offensive linemen. Like, that's, of course you want. We love the Hoff. He's a first ballot gold jacket. He played on maybe the best offensive line in football.
Oh, when it was
without question with him
Hoff,
and Mitch.
Batonio, Alex
Greco.
Mack, John Greco, and Mitchell Schwartz.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
And then we had it again. You might have had another one when you had Teller and obviously Joel and Jed's first year and Shredder and Conklin.
Who was first team All-Pro
First team All-Pro that year. Like, boy, you've had it a couple of times. Like, it isn't – you have to be good up front. You have to be well coached up front. But if you don't have the quarterback, you don't have anything. That's really the moral of the story. And I keep saying, like, well, none of these guys are any good. Dude, you're not allergic to coaching them up. They're 21, 22.
They might
They
think Brock
have
Purdy
talent.
was good?
Nobody did, in fact. Nobody in the league thought he was good. Nobody. He was literally the last pick. Coach him up.
That's why I think not only, and I saw something today that there's no way Will Howard's going in the 5th round. Somebody said, "Oh, we'll just take him with a 5th round flyer." I think there's 0% chance of that.
Test well.
But I have no problem taking a quarterback at 2, signing whoever they think is better for the scheme. But the 2 young guys that I wouldn't mind giving an opportunity to are, Danny Dimes or Justin Fields, and then taking Will Howard in the 3rd. I'd have no problem with it. All of a sudden, my quarterback room was Shador, Danny Dimes, and Will Howard. I'd be like, okay, we got 3
chances.
3 chances. I'd prefer probably Justin Fields, but we got 3 chances.
Yeah. One of these will hit. No, you brought up Purdy. You know why nobody talks about what they gave up in that draft?
Because of Brock Purdy.
Because of Brock Purdy.
And then you go back to the other point, though. That also is some of it is Brock Purdy, but then some of it is the coaching. And that goes back to the opening point and is what are the non-negotiable traits your quarterback must have? Brock Purdy doesn't have the strongest arm. He's more mobile, I think, now than people realize at the time. But what Brock Purdy could do, which was a non-negotiable for Kyle Shanahan, is he could take the one read that the play call clearly defined for him and then know from what he saw where to deliver the football and when. And he could do it on time and accurately. And if you can do that, you don't have to have every elite gift.
No.
And so that is why I guarantee you those two traits right there, his ability to make the read that Kyle would ask him to make based on the play call and then deliver the football on time and accurately, his ability to do those two things are why they even drafted him in the first place. Now it's worked out better than anybody, and even them, if they thought this, they would have drafted him in the first round. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, not the last pick in the draft.
Yep.
But he had traits that they at least felt that they could work with, and that's why I think in this whole thing, that's what's important. You may get a situation where, my, deal breaker is they can't do that read. Yes, maybe they can make a spectacular play, like, say, a Justin Fields.
Yeah.
But it feels like the reason that he frustrates offensive coordinators, and we know that there is tension now between he and Arthur Smith, is that probably some of the stuff that is schemed up well, that should be easy, isn't, and then he does this spectacular. But not the ability to, or the lack of the ability to rely on the layups being layups infuriates coaches. Now, he can make up for it in other ways. And I still like Justin Fields very, very much, and I have no problem with him being a Cleveland Brown. But I have no problem with this. You have this. You bring DTR back, and you say, okay, you guys are competing. DTR, you're going to get a full offseason. Maybe this system fits you a little bit better. Who knows? But it's an overhaul there, and until you get that right, to me, it's all noise. It's all noise. Unfortunately, it's not just, Travis Hunter, I think, is an incredible player. He's like Ohtani in essence in terms of how good he was. Wasn't he first team All-American?
First team All-American on both ways, offense and defense.
Right.
There's no precedent.
That's outrageous. Now, you're not going to do that in the NFL.
No.
I would imagine.
I would think he would be a primary corner and a package receiver.
And then I read something today, because I think Mel Kiper had it, that he'd be a primary. He thinks he could be a primary receiver and a package. Well, who knows? But that's something, again, you have to figure out. I don't know. Either way, you're not getting the full Ohtani experience, because it just isn't.
It's not possible.
Not possible in the National Football League. But now you could say, all right, what if we said, okay, what if, Seattle cuts Geno Smith, you sign Geno Smith, you bring in a Danny Dimes or a Fields with him, and then you drafted a Will Howard in the third. Okay, but then to me, that means at 2, you are doing something to accumulate assets. You're not just drafting a non-quarterback.
You're getting
you're
a bounty.
Saying, we're going hard in 26.
Yeah, fine. But here's the
you
problem.
never know.
Here's the problem with that. If there is a generational player, let's say Arch Manning's that in 26, they're not trading it. There is no amount of picks that the Jacksonville Jaguars would have taken for Trevor Lawrence.
No.
There are no amount of picks the Indianapolis Colts would have taken for Andrew Luck. When those guys are going number 1, they're not trading because nothing's worth it.
You would need a team
you'd have to get almost dumb luck like the Bears did.
Yep.
Where you stumble into it because they ended up being bad, and you can't count on luck.
No.
I'm with you. You're going to trade 2, then there would be somebody you like down the road in this draft. You cannot play 2026. We'll draft them then. That can't.
You just don't know.
You just don't know.
And think about if you go back to, and one of the reasons that I'm bringing this up now is you go back to the 2016 draft. 2016.
Yeah.
If you, as the Browns in number 2, knew that you were only on Jared Goff, you needed to go to the number 1 pick.
Yep.
You needed to say, hey, you're still going to get a nice haul at number 2 here.
You don't want a quarterback anyway.
You're not
just taking Mariota.
Right. But you got to go to number 1. Instead, we got jumped, and then all of a sudden we trade back. Now, would we have been better off in the short term with Carson Wentz? I mean, it appears perhaps we would have been.
Yeah.
But we didn't take that swing. The Browns have only taken a quarterback since 99 in the top 10, Bake and Couch. That's it.
Yeah.
And we've had how many times that we've been up there?
Yeah, and haven't. No, I know.
At some point, I just think you have got to – that position is everything. And we just laid out what you're dealing with in your division and your conference. And as you saw, unless you're the 1 seed, and in some cases it could be that even if you are the 1 seed, because C.J. Stroud would have been in that top 8 last year for sure.
For sure.
you're going to have to beat 2 of them just to get to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Josh Allen is going to, if he gets the Super Bowl, will have had to beat Lamar, and he will have had to beat Patrick Mahomes back-to-back.
Yeah, that's the job.
There are only a few teams, quarterbacks that can do that.
No. Yep.
So that is, you talk philosophy, and that gets back to, it's just an easy question about Tommy Rees. That's why these things are so important, and it's really a question, and you're right, it's him and Tommy Rees. And I think at this point, and you could say maybe after last season, there isn't all that runway, but if you've made the decision to stick with this group, and I understand that, 2-time coach of the year, no doubt.
Yeah.
You have got to get the person that's there has got to be somebody that has these things, the required traits that are the non-negotiable required traits, and none of the deal breakers.
Yep.
Or if they have one deal breaker, it's because they have check every box on the required traits and the non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what are we doing?
What are you doing?
It's the most important. It is the most important thing that there is. Period.
In all of sport.
Period.
Yep. That's it.
And you can again be competent, but if the goal is to be competent, then that's a different conversation. If the goal is to be a Super Bowl champion, that's it. That's the non-negotiable. You've got to have that quarterback.
Yeah, you do. It's just there's no other way to do it. It's just
no other way to do it.
That's the path. So you got to have that, or you don't have anything. Is kind of where it is. And I'm with you. I think you're the first person I've heard say it the way you explained it, where either number 2 or whatever number 2 can be has to net that return.
I know, and then once you get out of it, it becomes much more challenging because you can't.
You're in the Pittsburgh spot,
but you also can't guarantee that even if I have all these ones, that it's going to be a team there that's willing to trade out of that spot.
No, you try to get. And again, this speaks to, while I disagree with the means, the way that they went about it and what they did beforehand, this is what Atlanta was saying with Penix.
They shouldn't have signed Cousins.
Agreed. Shouldn't have. But what they came to the solution, the kind of the solution they came to was, we're not going to be picking this high again. We have too much talent on the rest of the roster. We're not going to be picking this high again. This is a really good quarterback draft. We like this guy. I know we just signed him, and maybe we shouldn't have, but we might not pick here again. And if you don't have one of these guys, you're going to spend all the time doing what we did post Matt Ryan and what we did between Matt Ryan and Michael Vick, where you're constantly searching for one. And you do patchwork and you put a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage, but it's nothing's final until you get that guy.
No. And the truth is, you're taking the percentage chance of the third rounder being something is very low. Yes. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. It's infinitesimally small. But you just got to, to me, you got to keep going at that position as much as you possibly can.
You do. Keep swinging. That's it. Those are your hot topics today, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. We will go around the league. There's some coaching news that we want to get to. Also, positional review. We'll do that coming up next. Take a look at the linebacker position. Who's coming back? What needs need to be filled? We're off and running on a First Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, Browns fans, this month's winner of the local business platform presented by Minuteman is Cilantro Taqueria. Cilantro Taqueria boasts 6 locations throughout Northeast Ohio. Check them out today. To learn more, visit browns.com/community/local business platform. Time for our positional review. We are in the linebacker room. There were a lot of guys who got to play. There's some ambiguity going forward. And, of course, kind of the headliner of this, Dr. Z, is what we didn't see, and that is availability from Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Obviously a cornerstone player, a scary injury, and then never returned to play this year. And I think that's probably where you have to start when you talk about this room.
Yeah, and that's one of the big questions facing this defense this offseason. Offensively, we know it's all about the quarterback, but defensively, it's, who are we getting back and what does that look like? And in terms of availability, the biggest question is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. JOK, again, was on his way to being a first-team All-Pro, I think, this year in 8 games. 61 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, 3 sacks, 3 passes defense, the forced fumble, and at the time that he was injured, had the only interception on the Cleveland Browns. So he was tremendous. You hope that you get good news and that he's a guy that's back because he is the centerpiece of your second level. So that's number one.
Have we heard an update? I've heard
no.
There's been nothing. No update from him or camp or us or anything on where he is. So, and honestly, folks, and this isn't pay attention to the score, it's just common sense. Like, the longer you don't hear about something like that, it tends to not be good. But we'll see. Hopefully it ends up being good news.
So he was tweeting about flying down on a plane full of Buckeye fans to the national championship game.
Well, as an ND guy, if he flew out of here, he would have.
2
a lot
days
of folks
ago,
from Columbus
an
came up
entire
here
plate
to fly.
full of Ohio State fans. So I don't know. Like, he was down there for the Ohio State Notre Dame.
He's been here. Like, it's not about if he can walk. It's can he play football? I think.
For sure.
The question. Yeah, I think he's good. He's in good spirits.
All that. It's like, but
all of
can
that,
you be a football player?
Right.
Again?
What are you?
Yeah.
What is happening in that neck area that could be potentially more permanent should something go wrong?
And that's the thing that I think fans don't understand, because it seemed like such an innocuous injury.
Correct.
You never thought in the moment that would even be possible, that he would be gone for the season and potentially would be career ending and all of those things. And God willing, it's not. But that ambiguity around him is something that was kind of there all season long. Once it happened, it was like, what is going on?
That's the hard part. That's what's scary. Right. And no updates, all of it, because I think it's gathering a lot of information at this time, and I think he's very important to this defensive scheme. I think he's very important to this defense period, and I think he is one of the biggest difference makers at the off-ball linebacker position in the entire National Football League, period. Because last year, he did something. He was one of 3 guys in the last 15 years to have, as an off-ball linebacker, 100 tackles and 20 tackles for loss. He sacks the quarterback. He intercepts the football. He forces fumbles. He plays behind. He was on his pace for 20. He was on his pace. You take 8 games.
Tackles.
That's in a 16-game season.
Yeah.
Now you get the benefit of another, but in a 16-game season, on the pace for 122 and 20 again. 20 tackles for loss again. 6 sacks, 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles. Like,
it's first-team All-Pro.
In the words of the great Dick Vitale, he's a stat sheet stuffer supreme, baby. That's what he is.
He is.
So
and
he's massively important to everything that you want to do. Massively.
Yep. Number 2.
Well, the rest of the scheme, or the rest of the linebacking group, you got Jordan Hicks. So struggled to stay healthy. It's been 2 years in a row. This is the first time, though, that he has not had 100 tackles. He had 5 straight. It's the first time he hasn't had 90 tackles since 2017. He is under contract next year. My guess is he would be back, and he would be your starting Mike linebacker, and you hope that he can stay healthy. 2 guys who really, I think, took advantage of the opportunities afforded them. Devin Bush, former first-round pick of the Steelers. He's an undrafted free agent. I know that he would like to be back, and we would like him to be back. So he had a great season, 76 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, had some big plays in the hole, showed his physicality, sideline to sideline, fit our scheme, and really as the season went on, played more, picked up the scheme more and more, was very good, and I think he's somebody that would come back and be kind of in competition for that starting Sam linebacking job, and he can be a backup Mike.
That was a great job of the front office of finding a guy that had traits that fit what we needed. You mentioned the scheme fit.
Yep.
Supreme talent, former first-round pick, and then him taking full advantage of the opportunity.
Yep.
And being a pro and handling it and handling it. And because what you saw in the back half of the season for him was really good play.
Very good play, and same with Mahmoud Diabate. Mahmoud Diabate was a guy that was really undrafted free agent a year ago, thrust into this role, was not an off-ball linebacker, was really kind of an on-the-line player at Utah, and did a great job. 70 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, better, improved in coverage, had 3 passes defense on the season. He's a guy that, if your top 4 linebackers going into the next year are Hicks, JOK, Bush, Diabate, you feel really good about that. And then there's the younger guys that they also like quite a bit. Winston Reed, who can play offense, he can play defense, he can play special teams. Had the forced fumble, remember, on special teams. It was when D-Hop went over the 50-yard line, taken away, recovered the fumble against Pittsburgh in the snow game when Miles got that sack strip fumble in the first half. He is Winston Reed, a guy that you think could be in your linebacker room. And then Watson was drafted late. They like him. They knew it was going to be a little bit of an adjustment, but he's a guy that they feel like kind of maybe in year 2 has an opportunity to go a little bit more. So if you're healthy and you're right, that could be your 6 linebackers right there.
Yep.
Now, if you're not, you may draft one in that room and try to get another piece in there. Supposedly it's a solid linebacker draft. We'll ask people as we get closer, but you feel pretty good. Mix of veterans in Hicks. Bush is still young, but he's a veteran. Then everybody else is young.
Really
Diabate, JOK, Reed, Watson, all young. So that's where you are. In terms of, if you have JOK back, anything you're doing in that room is kind of window dressing or succession planning.
Yep.
Right? If you don't, you have a big hole at that linebacker, that playmaking linebacker position, and he has skill sets that are not easily replaced.
Yeah, at that point, then you're looking about you need a playmaker in there.
Yeah, but
it's not that's a luxury, and it's a luxury.
Total luxury.
Like it's nothing that's you got enough in here to where you don't have to tinker with this much. Run this stuff back, and
sure,
hopefully JOK goes. Irish scoop was this. Jared Luganbill passed this along to us. JOK dancing, doing like a little bit of a breakdance thing at the national championship game, and looking great. Looks great. So
he does look great. I think that he's in a good spot. It's I don't know the extent. I am certainly not his doctor. I'm not privy to any of the medical information, but I'll use a parallel with I have a great many friends in the professional wrestling industry that there are guys that would be able to do, maybe perhaps not dance with that kind of grace, but there's a difference between doing that and taking a
putting
DDT
your nose in
on the head or
Derrick Henry
getting, power bombed onto the mat. That because of, whether it's spinal stenosis, which is narrowing of the spinal the area around the spinal column, that it's not safe for them to do those things. Now, it's about your risk tolerance, and many of them have then gotten procedures where they were able to come back, and so it's still a 1 in a something chance that it could get real bad, but that was a risk they were willing to assume. JOK's been through a lot in his life, and certainly it's good to see him nip up like that. That's tremendous athleticism, but I think his safety is the number one priority, obviously, and you hope that there's a way that he can, play the game safely in return. I know it's what he loves to do. It's what everybody wants. So that's something that we'll see, I guess, more as it plays out, but it certainly is good to see him moving like that.
Where would you put linebacker on the defensive priority off-season list? It has to be near the bottom.
Are we just doing 3 levels, or are we breaking it?
It's near the very bottom. I mean, it has
D-line
to be.
is 1.
Yeah, D-line, tackle, and end.
Yeah, and then cornerbacks and safeties are 2, and then linebackers.
It's always going to be last on the list of things that's just the nature of the way this.
It only really matters on the teams where you have a guy that's transcendent, like a Roquan Smith. Matt Milano is that for the Buffalo Bills, and JOK is that for us. So there, it matters a great deal. It is also not his skill set is not easily replaced.
No.
He never should have been a second-round pick. We're very lucky that he was. That's probably the only reason he's a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, that's it. All right, we will go around the league, take a look at some of the coaching hires that have already happened, some staff starting to come into form as well. We will do that, go over the Sunday championship slate, a championship week edition of Guess the Scores with Dr. Z coming your way next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, time to go around the league, presented by Leaf Filter, official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. This just in the last couple of minutes from Schefter. The Raiders are finalizing a deal to hire Buccaneers assistant general manager John Spytek as their new general manager, per sources. Tom Brady with a lot of influence. My guess is there was a connection with him when they were in Tampa Bay. So that is the most recent one there.
He was also Brady's teammate on the 99 Michigan team.
And there you have it.
So there's
and this guy's still calling the game. They're like, NFL owners are going to be like, yeah, this is fine.
I feel like they're just going to let it go through the Super Bowl, and then there's got to be no way.
Yeah, this is enough. Like, we can't have you in the buildings.
I mean, this guy that they're hiring, the assistant GM, supposedly he's the only one that talks on day 3 of the draft. He's kind of run portions of the draft for Tampa Bay. Spoken of extremely highly in NFL circles, so we'll see what comes of it. But the only GM position left open would be the New York Football Jets, and they were the first ones to fire their GM in November.
Well, and that goes into some of the reporting yesterday that they said, if we let we're not going to let Aaron Glenn leave the building, and then they did.
And they did.
And so now he's back. He's going to interview in New Orleans as well.
He's actually the new head coach of the New York Football Jets per 30
that just happened?
Ago.
Okay. So that did happen. They got that done. So Aaron Glenn's going to coach the Jets.
Literally, Schefter just bombed it.
Okay. There you go.
A new coach in New York. Jets are hiring Aaron Glenn as their new head coach. The former Jets 1994 first-round pick, who became a personnel scout for their team, now becomes their head coach.
By the way, so we've got Aaron Glenn here. Have you guys watched, and we were joking just about the look of the video without actually watching, or I hadn't watched it and listened to Ben Johnson in Chicago yet, but has anybody?
I have not listened to it. I saw it, but I didn't listen.
Have you listened to any of the things that he said?
No, I didn't have
It's just, and I know it's the nature of the business, but I don't know if it's happened this quickly where somebody has lost a playoff game and then 48 hours later is the new head coach of a division rival. And it just struck me as odd. Like
what struck you as odd?
That if you would put everything into the Detroit Lions, which he had, and you just lost that game as a number 1 seed, that there would probably be some period of hangover mourning, and not just this unbridled almost. Look, watch it. Watch one where he's like talking to the camera like this. There's just almost a little like crazy in his enthusiasm.
I think that comes from kind of what got the guy who got the Cardinals job a couple of years ago. That if you watch Ben Johnson in Detroit, he's not an overly charismatic follow me to freedom guy, and that maybe he's just a little awkward.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is you get into these buildings and they say, well, we want to get everybody excited. We let's do a video. Everyone's going to be jacked up. It's a new era. You got to do it. You got to get. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll do it. So then he puts on a little bit of a show, and you have like the Gannon thing in Arizona where you're like, what the hell is going on? You also have to remember, like, he's coming out of biting kneecaps, Dan Campbell, and like how much success Dan had being that way.
He's not that way.
You got to be authentic, man.
Yeah.
You got to be authentic to who you are. It comes across phony.
Yes,
agreed.
But
I think that's why those things happen.
But it was odd, and also, I don't know. I almost think like.
I think all that stuff's nonsense.
Take a little time. Like everything that you've poured your heart and soul into ended in kind of a crushing display, and unfortunately, a great deal of offensive turnovers, an inopportune
trick plays.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if it was inopportune time, inopportunely executed by Jamison Williams. The decision to put the ball in his hands to throw a pass. I mean, that's what they've been all year, I guess. So you can't question it. But it just, I don't know. The vibe of it was. It was just a little bit odd to me. And I was the only one. I only noticed this because it was kind of started infiltrating my timeline. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. And then I was kind of like, oh, yeah.
That's awkward. Yeah,
but here's the problem. He's already interviewed. He's probably interviewed twice instead of really just putting all your focus into a playoff game.
Yes,
they should. It should be what we said. It should be
here you go.
Window.
Here's one takeaway from the presser. And then I'm going to give you your favorite guy, Kevin Warren, had a comment today.
Oh, God.
Oh, buckle up. This is from Courtney Cronin, the Bears reporter for ESPN. Ben Johnson said, going into this season, I felt like this place was a sleeping giant. I was personally more concerned about the Bears than I was any other team in the division. Okay? Sure. All right.
Going into the season, I could see that being true. Bears relative to the Vikings and not the Packers.
Not the Packers.
Not the
no.
Packers.
Everybody knew the
Exactly.
Packers were who they are.
And by the way, the Bear. Well, I mean, he was with the
threw
Lions.
stones at LaFleur.
Yeah. Oh,
Was that real? Was that quote real?
that
Where he said, well, I like being Matt LaFleur twice a year or whatever? Is
Yeah.
that real?
I don't know if it's
I never
AI
know.
or not.
I mean, we just, like,
Yeah.
I
We
gave
live in a
Jared
where there's-
credit. And Sean Crawford, who played on the Notre Dame, is now saying that was from 2020 with JOK, not this past weekend. So just to clear things up. So we live in a world right now where misinformation is everywhere.
Yes.
And it's very difficult when you do jobs like these and you have no nets underneath you.
Right.
That you don't have time to vet everything. But go ahead.
This will take you
So
back.
I don't know if this is real or not that he said that about LaFleur.
Correct.
It
Well,
was quoted.
here's the thing. Courtney Cronin's tweeting it.
Yeah.
So
if she's tweeting it, then
she's legit. Courtney Cronin tweets, this is from Kevin Warren. Kevin Warren said he was in a restaurant the other night and someone sent him a drink with a note attached to it. That note said, hire Ben Johnson. He said he looked at the note today and he plans to give it to Johnson. I believe that we've seen stuff before with notes and taking advice from people reportedly and all that fun little ditty.
Are you talking about 2014? Come on, man.
Come on, man. What are you doing?
Are we really trotting this out, Kevin Warren? Come on.
Dude,
I don't know. All right.
There was no one who was sorry to see him live the Big Ten. I'll promise you that.
So we've got, do I have a proper listing of all the jobs? Jets, Aaron Glenn. Bears, Ben Johnson. Pats, Vrabel. Jacksonville,
Yep.
open. New
Vegas.
Orleans, open. Vegas, open.
Dallas.
Dallas, open. Are they talking about, I saw something that I didn't.
4-hour interview with
Brian Schottenheimer to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
What has Brian Schottenheimer done? He may be a very fine man. Marty's kid, God bless. But what has he done himself
In the
to
NFL?
warrant being interviewed to coach the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, he's probably controllable. So he was, well, I wouldn't even have known this.
Go ahead.
And did you know this?
Go ahead. I don't know.
He's been
No,
their
I really
offensive coordinator the last 2 years.
Right. I guess the reason we don't know that is
'Cause
because
Mike
Mike McCarthy
McCarthy
calls plays.
And before that,
They
it was
ran out Kellen Moore.
They ran out Kellen Moore, so they brought him. So he's been the Dallas Cowboys coaching analyst and the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator. In 21 is Jacksonville. 21 is that Herb, or is that 22?
No, that's Herb was Trevor Lawrence. I mean, let's see. Lawrence would have been 21. Isn't that? I'm trying to think who Ohio State played in 20. Yeah, no, that was because it would have been 21. Would have been Herb. I think.
So he was the passing game coordinator with Herb.
Yeah.
Yeah, hired by passing game coordinator. Yeah.
Yeah, 21.
He was not retained by Peterson. Yeah, so he was there. Then he was hired as an offensive consultant and then was promoted to offensive coordinator. He has been offensive coordinator in Seattle, 18 to 20, Colts quarterback, 16 to 17, University of Georgia OC in 15, Rams OC, 12 to 14, Jets OC, 6 to 11. He's never been a head coach. He has been an offensive coordinator or quarterback coach in the league since 2001, so a tremendous amount of history. But you would have thought if he was going to become a head coach, it would have come when he was
long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah, not follow me to freedom guy.
Jerry, who knows? I mean, he could kick tires on one of these college guys. The Jacksonville job is still open.
I don't get
Everybody
that.
keeps telling us it's about Balky.
Balky.
But, good grief. Shad Khan was on a Zoom with Balky and said, if he needs to go, he can go.
Yep.
Tampa Bay's OC pulled his name out of that hat this morning. He was going to have a second interview.
I don't understand that because that's the best job to me.
It's a great job.
Great town. Owners. There's got to be something with Shad Khan that people don't have an interest in working with. I can't think of anything else.
His son?
Because they got the quarterback. They have
His son's running
a ton of offensive talent.
Yeah.
How's he doing on that?
Not great.
Not well.
Couple other things around the league. Linebacker or defensive line coach in Detroit, Terrell Williams, is headed to be the DC for Vrabes in New England. Josh McDaniels is going to be the OC in New England. Remember how close he was to here?
Yeah.
I thought that day, it'd be like the plume of smoke by the end of that day that he would get it. So a couple of Northeast Ohio guys reunite with McDaniels
the
and
Lions
Vrabes.
staff's getting pilfered here. I mean, and you figure Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are probably going to want some guys.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll allow him to take guys off that staff. Like, I think Mark Brunell will end up the offensive coordinator in Detroit.
Yep.
He was quarterback coach there, so that would seem to make sense. So there you go. Tennessee introduced their new general manager, Mike Borgonzi, former Chiefs assistant GM.
Chiefs, yeah.
There you go.
Jeff Jarrett's fired up about him.
He's jacked up. He's all jacked up.
Yeah.
He says we won't pass on a generational talent in the draft with the first pick in the draft. Well, good. You shouldn't.
I found it interesting.
You trying to say they're not taking a quarterback?
He's not introduced by the owner. He's introduced by the president of football operations.
Yeah.
So is the president of football ops overseeing everything there?
I mean, it could be like kind of with the Spielman, what he did in Detroit, where like he was kind of the in between. I was surprised he interviewed for the Jets job, Spiels, because I think he only reports to ownership in Detroit. Like everybody's under him. So I was surprised that he would want to go like be an everyday general manager when he basically.
I mean, the Jets GM job's the only one still open. I mean, they fired their guy in November of 2019.
Yeah, right. You listen to WKNR 850 ESPN Cleveland, a good Karma brand station. All right, time for a little Guess the Scores Championship Edition, Dr. Z.
I feel pretty good about these. And totals, too. I'm predicting 3 for 4.
Let me see if I put if totals are in.
I can get those.
I can get totals. I can get those. All right.
That's my prediction.
I think you're going to go 4 for 4 here, too. What did I tell you your threshold was on the over-under?
We were plus or
minus 2.5?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just get this pulled up, and then we will commence. All right. A championship week edition of Guess the Scores. We begin in the afternoon, 3 o'clock. Washington at Philly on the Fox Network. Burkhardt, Brady, Andrews, Rinaldi. $4.92 is your price to get in on Vivid Seats. Your game time weather, 39 degrees and partly sunny. Dr.
No snow globe.
Z. No snow globe.
That's fine.
No snow globe.
I think it should be Eagles minus 1. I think it will be, because the Commanders have not gotten any respect in any of these lines. I think it will be Eagles minus 6.
Got it.
And my total for this one is, actually, I'll change that. 48.5.
Got it. 47.5.
Ooh, okay.
47.5. I'm with you. I don't understand 6.
I don't either. The Eagles, they don't wow me.
No.
They've got some good pieces and parts, but they're not a finish.
Minus 6?
And I don't know.
I think
too
minus
much.
1.
Yeah, minus 1.5 at most, or 2. Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, 6:30. We've seen it a lot. My kids are so sick of Kansas City. I can't believe it.
Can we just play these at 1 and
funny to
4:30?
me?
And I always push back. Well, I'd like that too, but at least it's 6:30. It's
I'll
not
take
8.
that. Yeah,
so
you're
I'll
done
take
by
it.
10.
You know, that's better. I'll take 6:30. Go ahead.
We as a society aspire to be like great, and we idolize greatness, and greatness is the aspiration. But then as soon as somebody becomes too great, they hate him.
Of course.
They hated Brady at the end.
Yes, of course.
And then now you like him because he's not playing.
Look at Taylor Swift. Same thing. You ascend, and then we got to pull you down.
Why?
It actually cost, as a quick aside, I did the legal, so it's okay. I think it cost Tim Tebow a second Heisman. I think it cost Tyler Hansbrough a little bit at North Carolina.
Good.
I know you don't like him. I think it cost Leitner a little bit too at Duke, one you're a little more fond of. I think when you're so good for so long, you live long enough to become the villain. And that's just it. You go from like hero, love, to all of a sudden like they're overrated. Like my idiot kids is where they're like, oh yeah, Mahomes is overrated. Like I stopped the car. And my wife goes, that was harsh. And I go, I can't have my kids be in the Twitter feed.
Yes.
We're not going to be ignorant.
No.
We're going to be smart.
He's not overrated.
And that ain't it. So,
but somebody said to me, oh, he's garbage this year. I said, every game that they needed to make a drive at the end of the game to win, he made it.
If anybody who said that, if you had to bet anything that mattered to you on one quarterback to go down the field and get points.
That's active.
Patrick
Honestly,
Mahomes. Probably even if you did all time, it'd be him and Joe and Brady and Manning. I mean, it's the very peak of the sport.
Yes.
But active, it's him by 100 miles.
Yes.
Oh, he's overrated. Stop. Can't have it. All right. Bills at Chiefs. Nance, Romo,
my dad hates
Wilson,
him, but
Feely.
yet is
Why does he
referring
hate
to
him?
him as Steph Mahomes. So then he actually likes him because he's tired of Chiefs. Refs cheat for the Chiefs.
Oh,
Everybody.
My dad. If you got Pedro and then the boys in a room, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
What
I
would
don't
be
know
fun
if that
is
ends
he would
well
be
for you.
He would
You're
try
gonna
to
have to clean up a lot of
he
stuff.
would try to speak emphatically, but two of them have phones, so they'd be able to fact check him, which would be tough.
I feel like they'd agree on it.
They might agree on a great many
things.
like. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right.
253 to get into this one. So not a great fever in Kansas City to go sit in 33 degrees either. They've done it so much.
Seven straight
AFC Championship games.
And the Patriots did 8 straight. That's the record. Is that right?
The only thing I can think of is the LeBron streak in the Eastern Conference. That's in the vicinity.
Pretty sure the Patriots
did the Patriots play in 8 in a row?
I think so because I thought when I heard somebody talk about how it was 7 in a row, and I'm like, well, that's got to be the longest ever, and they said only second to. Let's see.
When did the Patriots have their run? Was it in the 2000s or the 10s when they had 8 in a row? Because they had 2 separate Super Bowl winning windows.
Patriots consecutive. They played in a record 8 straight AFC title games from 2011 to 2018, which means he has now played in the 7 straight. So the AFC title game for 15 straight years has had either the Patriots or the Chiefs, and in at least one case that I can think of, had them both.
Oh, my God, you're right. The Chiefs or Patriots have played in every Super Bowl, every AFC championship
since 2011.
15 years. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's dominance. Yeah, so that's the record. So they're 1 away from the record. 11 to 8. My word.
All right.
Not on. Okay. I've waffled on this one. If I say 2 and it's 3, I'd be so mad. If I say 2.5 and it's 1.5, I think I could live with that. 2.5.
Got it. 2. It was 2. So your original belief was correct. It's Kansas City -2.
A little bit more on the Aaron Glenn hiring from Albert Breer before we get into your total points. Among those, I'd expect
like icing the kicker.
Be in the mix to be the new Jets OC. Rams pass game corner Nick Caley, Texans QB's coach Jared Johnson, and Vikings QB coach Josh McCown.
Josh McCown would be a good one. Jets ties, obviously. And then Johnson, the Texans quarterback coach, somebody that we interviewed here last year for the OC job. I know
that's
that.
right.
All right, over under. Bills Chiefs.
I think it's going to be less than Commanders Eagles. I have it clocking in at 46.5.
Jeez, you just get it. 47.5. It's actually exactly the same. So you got it. 4 for 4 as predicted. Both games over under is 47.5. How about that?
I'm not talking trash. You
All right.
got 2 games.
Positional reviews continue in the quarterback room. This will be a relatively large conversation that is coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For the first time ever, witness Inter Miami take on 2023 MLS Cup champion Columbus Crew at Huntington Bank Field. It's Saturday, April 19th. Secure your spot to see some of the MLS's biggest stars. Visit huntingtonbankfield.com/crew versus Miami to get your tickets today. The positional review is in the quarterback room. This is a lot going on. I think now that we have some distance, this was a Custer's last stand approach to the room now, that this was an all-in approach.
Yep.
We've talked about it a billion times about putting Deshaun in a position to succeed with Ken Dorsey and all of it. It did not work. Deshaun had not one Achilles surgery, but then a second. Obviously, he's not going to play football in 2025 anywhere. And so everything that was done in this room was done with the idea that Deshaun Watson's your starting quarterback, and he's not going to be your starting quarterback in 2025. So it's a reset.
It is a reset, which is if you're just joining us, see this in the opening segment, why we talked about the quarterback room in the manner in which we did. Deshaun started the season and played really the first 6 games. He was injured in the 7th against Cincinnati. Actually had the highest completion percentage on the team, 63.4%. Threw for 1,148 yards. Had the best touchdown to interception ratio on the team, which is, unfortunately, it was not saying much. 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. He was also sacked in 7 games, as many times as the other quarterbacks were sacked in the other 10 games combined. He led the league. He was sacked 33 times in those games, rating of 79, QBR of just 23.3. And looking back on it, honestly, the best thing that Deshaun did was he didn't turn the football over in the manner in which we were plagued in the later portion of the season. But we did see a situation, unfortunately, where this offense didn't get to 20 points and was doing things on unfortunately, a historically unsuccessful level as an offense. So then he gets hurt. Jameis comes in. You've got some unbelievable.
It's fireworks, baby.
Fireworks.
Drama,
You've got
all of it.
The great win against Baltimore. You've got the franchise record, 497 yards passing against Denver, but that's 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, including a pick 6. You beat Pittsburgh in the Snow Globe game, but ultimately it was the turnovers that would do him in. And, he comes in, the first start is Baltimore, magical win there. And then from that point, it struggles a little bit. The very next game out was against the Chargers. He throws 3 picks and a loss where the Browns put up 10 points. Then you have the befuddling game down in New Orleans where he throws for 395 yards, 2 touchdowns. We do not turn the football over, and yet we get beat 35-14. Then you got the Snow Globe game, which we win down in Pittsburgh, and then the interceptions, and it all starts to happen. Against Denver, it's the 497, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Judy has the huge game, 235 yards. Then it's at Pittsburgh, where he throws 2 more picks and loses a fumble. And then it's against Kansas City, 3 picks and loses a fumble. And so over a 3-game stretch, he's responsible for 10 giveaways himself. The Browns lose all 3 games, all 3 losses by more than a score. And that was it. And then the Browns went to DTR. And DTR did not go well for him at all. 0-2 as a starter, 51.7% completions, no touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year, a quarterback rating of just 39.5. And then it was Zappe in the finale, who went 16-31 for 170, a touchdown and 2 picks in Baltimore in the season finale. Just not great. We threw the most interceptions in the NFL with 23, only 19 passing touchdowns to offset those. We were sacked 66 times. I talked about 33 in the first 7 games, 33 sacks in 7 games. It's almost 5 a game. Winston and Zappe, both free agents. DTR still on his rookie deal, and certainly I would keep him around and have him compete to stay on the roster. And then, Deshaun will be unavailable this season.
The Jameis part of it probably deserves a little bit of a breakout because what he provided in the way of joy for this fan base in the Jim Donovan game against the Ravens and then in the Snow Bowl game against Pittsburgh. It was just fun to watch our team play offensive football again with him. I'm thankful because he showed you what Jerry Jeudy could be.
Yep.
Because without the Jameis Winston, if Jameis Winston isn't here and it's Watson into DTR, I don't know if we know that Jerry Jeudy's a 1.
I think that's fair.
Because you don't see it. But because you had Winston,
Yep.
you got to see that Jerry Jeudy's a 1, and you got to this is what happens. By the way, it also made our offensive line look better. He was consistent in his drops. The ball was coming out. You got Chief going. It was like, oh, okay, this is offensive football. He turned it over way too much, which is why he was available to us and why he's been bounced around the league a little bit. But he's a lot of fun. He's a good dude. The locker room loves him, loves all of it. And in a season where it was just so gloomy, he was a ray of sunshine. Not like Flacco the previous year, not comparing him, but for this year, you needed to have a little bit of joy, and Winston provided it.
Absolutely. He provided it on incredible levels, not just as entertainment, but also when you look at the fact that he did provide for a spark for the offense. You did get to see some of the players realize their potential, and I think that was massively important because at the end of the year, the one bright spot on offense, and unfortunately it was singular. Now, he unlocked Tillman to a degree, and then Tillman misses the last 6 games or 7 games with the concussion. The one you look back on this season, you say offensively, what the one bright spot was outside of the excellent continued play of Joel Bitonio and guys on the line. The one bright spot was Jerry Jeudy, and that does not happen without the Jameis Winston part unlocking him. And I think it continued even when DTR went in, but you needed Jameis almost to kind of unlock Jerry Jeudy's his mojo, as Austin Powers would say. Because here were his numbers this year. Week 1, 3 catches, 25 yards, and a touchdown. Week 2, 5 for 73. Week 3, 4 for 27. Week 4, 6 for 72. Then the last 3 games started by Deshaun Watson. 1 catch for 16, 1 catch for 35, 1 catch for 18. Jameis comes in. It goes 5 for 79, 7 for 73, 6 for 142 and a touchdown, 6 for 85, 9 for 235 and a touchdown, 5 for 64 and a touchdown, 11 for 108. Then DTR comes in. It's 2 for 20 against Cincinnati, 12 for 94 against Miami, and then against Baltimore with Zappe, it's 6 for 63.
That's it, though.
But that was it. Yeah.
I mean, that proved the point, though. Like, without Jameis, you don't know what Jerry is.
Yeah, with Watson, Jeudy had 2 games out of 7 over 60 yards. And with all of the other quarterbacks combined, he had 9 games over 60 yards and only 1 below.
Yeah. So that was it. So that's it. And then you mentioned the DTR component of this. He had an opportunity.
He did
at the end of this year to have some momentum, play in, see if he could be part of the solution, even at the top of the ballot at the quarterback position.
Really just even to be the
even
backup.
Just be a backup, whatever. Like when we said this, even when Deshaun went down, the only on roster fix for the solution possible would be DTR.
It just didn't work. No, did not manifest itself that way, unfortunately.
So this room is what the entire offseason is all about.
Yep.
The plan for this room is what this entire offseason is all about. When Tommy Rees talks, what you're going to want to know is what does he look for in a quarterback? What say will he have in all of this? At the Combine, you'll try to find some clues in terms of that. There's a bunch of ways this team can go, in part because they have the number 2 pick in the draft, at addressing this position. But I think that you have to address it in multiple ways. This isn't bringing in one guy. It's bringing in 2 or 3 guys into the room.
It's probably 3, and I think you look at it as pick number 2 plus. And now if you don't do a pick number 2 and you're doing a trade down and then you're saying it's a Geno Smith or a Kirk Cousins kind of in that role, plus a Danny Dimes or a Justin Fields, plus a Will Howard, maybe even a Quinn Ewers. I mean, he was highly regarded coming out. That's a good – there's probably decent clay there that perhaps you can unlock. But, yeah, I think it's 3 new quarterbacks. 2 of them ideally would be rookies. One of them obviously at the top. But you really need to address that position. I think if you go kind of the Geno Smith – if he ends up available, or Cousins in that with a Jones and a Fields, you're down to 2 potential actual long-term solutions, and I think you want to have 3 options. And obviously, that early draft pick, that should be the one that's got the most raw gifts that you've got. Now, Fields was an early draft pick, so is Danny Dimes.
Yeah.
So you add 2 of those guys plus, either the national champion and Will Howard. I'm saying Ewers just because I know he's a guy that was the top prospect coming out. That's
I'm glad you did. Okay. I'm glad you did, and I do think that he is somebody, not at 2, but he is somebody that has a chance to rehabilitate himself over the course of the next month and a half. If we were doing this exercise a year ago and we had the number 2 pick in the draft or in the position for a quarterback, and we would have said, all right, a year from now you're going to pick number 2, it would have been Carson Beck and it would have been Quinn Ewers. They would have been at the very top of it. Carson Beck is at Miami playing another year after having elbow surgery. Quinn Ewers got hurt. There are certainly things in his game that are going to drive some coordinators nuts. He's a bit check downy. He's not wildly accurate on the intermediate stuff, but he's got a big arm. And if you watch his game against Michigan, you get an idea of what he's capable of.
When he was healthy.
And I think he is also – I don't know if he'd be a fit here, but he is a piece – I like how you phrase it as a piece of clay, and I don't think you can forget about these. And I think if you're looking for an example of this, nobody would have thought that Jaden Daniels, going into his last year at LSU, was going to go win the Heisman, be the second pick in the draft. Nobody would have thought a year ago that Cam Ward would have gone number 1 overall. Cam Ward went into the draft. The NFL said, nah, not good enough. He went to Miami for a year, okay, and they're not known for having out-of-this-world offensive coaching. He went to Miami for a year and now is likely going to go number 1 overall. Well, what changed? Played more ball, got some decent coaching, got better. Bo Nix was another one. Bo Nix, there was nobody drafting Bo Nix going into his final season at Oregon. There wasn't talk around him being a first-round pick, leading a team to the postseason.
Which is a guy who played a ton of college football.
These guys can play. There are guys out there to play. Don't be scared to take a quarterback. Coach one up. There's plenty of clay out there.
Don't be scared to take 2.
Take 2. Shedeur was a 4/5-star-ish quarterback coming out of high school. Okay? Everywhere he's gone, they've gotten better, and he's put up stats, and he's accurate. He's an accurate quarterback. He really had one weapon at Colorado, Travis Hunter. That's it. The Horned Kid's okay.
And
but
not
it was
a great
mostly,
offensive
and
line.
not a great offensive line. He would take a lot of coaching, right? But don't be fearful of that. Coach him up.
Mahomes needed a lot of coaching.
Mahomes sat for
Josh
a year,
Allen
man.
needed a ton of coaching.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson needed a ton of coaching. The only one that really was kind of walk-in is Burrow.
Yeah. There aren't many.
No, that is certainly not the norm.
No. So, to me, that's it. I mean, the one last question here is on your quarterback wish list as of today.
I think I laid it out. I mean, I think it's if you're asking me, it's quarterback at 2. If this is me, and I have not, I'll be honest about it, I sat down and watched 5 games of Cam Ward, 5 games of Shedeur to say, yeah, I definitely want to take them, but I think I just know how important the position is and where we're picking. So my guess is I could talk myself certainly into one of those. Then I'm bringing in a Dimes or a Fields, and then I'm drafting another one.
Yep.
Got 3 third-round picks. You got a free –
Keep
Amari
taking
Cooper is a free third-round pick, and I know we've got a lot of issues to address, but let me tell you something. It didn't – Washington having RG3 and Cousins wasn't a negative for them.
No.
That would be a fine situation to be in.
They did it twice. Remember, way back they did it with Heath Schuler and Gus Frerotte. Took them both, and then Frerotte ended up being the guy, and Schuler went early, and keep swinging.
Then Gus Frerotte knock himself out headbutting the wall.
He headbutted the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then cost himself a few games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, walls are walls.
They're formidable. We have our first mock draft of the season. We will get into that coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Back for another season for our four-legged companion. It's year 3 of Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the fan club for dogs. View membership options and join today at barkingbackers.com. All right, Mel Kiper Jr., his first mock of the season. I'm a Kiper guy.
1.0, baby.
Oh, baby.
Brugler's my new era guy.
Yes.
But
He's the
Kipes
OG.
is my guy. He's the OG.
I kind of think I go if the three.
Do you guys remember when he wouldn't put in his mock drafts, like in the year, he would not put underclassmen in them? He refused. And then he refused to do mock drafts. He would only do his big board.
Correct.
For the longest time, he's like, I'm only doing a big board. I'm not doing mock drafts.
So Kiper obviously is the OG, and then the new era is our guy Dane, and then I like Daniel Jeremiah a great deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now for quarterbacks, what I can't wait to get to Indy, and I know you're excited about it, to talk with Greg Cosell. That's always very
enlightening.
Yes.
Kiper has Cam Ward going number 1 overall to Tennessee. With the second pick in the draft, he has us taking Travis Hunter. Here is what he writes under the Hunter pick. Know how I just said the Titans had the league's second worst QBR and interception total? The Browns are worse in both categories. Deshaun Watson also retore his right Achilles, and Jameis Winston's a free agent. So taking Sanders isn't out of the question, but I think Cleveland is more likely to address another hole here and find quarterback reinforcements in free agency or later in the draft. Trading back for more picks with another QB-needy team could be part of the equation too. Plus, Hunter is just that good. I see elite quickness and ball skills on both sides of the ball, traits that help him to 15 touchdown catches and 4 interceptions this season. The Browns will likely use him primarily as a receiver, then sprinkle him in at a cornerback position in specific situations.
Isn't he better as a corner than a wideout?
Great at both. I mean,
he is.
He's an unbelievable route runner. He has as good of high point hands is the best way I can describe it as anybody I've seen. He's very late with his hands too, as a receiver and as a corner. Like, he flashes them late. He's wildly acrobatic when he comes to the way he can contort himself to catch the ball. From a trait standpoint, it feels to me like he could play a lot longer, better, and higher at corner. At receiver, he's not Jeremiah Smith. He doesn't have that big frame like a few do, right? So, and I don't know if he's got the break. I don't think he's Tyreek Hill speed-wise, right? So, to me, I think he could be a first-team, perennial Pro Bowl corner. I think he's got those type of coverage skills.
Yep.
So, to me, I would do it that way, but I'm not Mel Kiper Jr., so who am I to disagree?
Not at all. That's why you had said that, and obviously you have to have a plan and figure out what it is that you want to do with him. I don't think that's crazy to say at all.
He has the Giants trading up to 3 then to take Hunter's teammate, Shedeur Sanders.
So here's the thing. I'm just going to read you one sentence, and then this to me this is why you take him. This is Mel Kiper. Sanders is super accurate, completing 70% of his throws this season. He could step right away and lift the entire offense, including standout 2024 first-rounder Malik Neighbors. Time is running out for GM Joe Schoen and Coach Brian Dable. They have to get this right. If you say he's a quarterback who could step in right away and lift the entire offense, that's it. Then why is he available at pick 3?
Yeah. Same. I agree. Yeah.
I mean, he even says, I'll take it a step further, this is the best case scenario for the Giants. Their Week 17 win over the Colts slid them to number 3 overall, and now finding a new QB1 in the first round isn't guaranteed. But Daniel Jones is gone. Drew Lock is a free agent, so the Giants have to do something to clean up one of the worst passing games in the league. New York will be weighing all options, and it might ultimately be forced to trade up to the top 2 to get its guy. But here, Sanders falls into the Giants' lap without any extra moves. So if it's not like he's saying they like him, they need a quarterback, they're going to take a shot. This is saying they fall into their laps, which to me says whoever was picking second, if you also need a quarterback, this would be a mistake not to take him. Just from the verbiage of
the verbiage of it. Furthermore, if the Giants coveted him, you'd have to also assume that the Raiders were. And if you didn't love him for some reason, and again, we've made it abundantly clear where we stand on this, then trade with the Raiders at 6, get next year's 1, another 2, and let them come and get him.
Yep.
You can't just let the Giants sit there at 3 if they're taking him. You got to. There's got to be another team that wants him, even if you don't.
I think you got to.
And you know where we stand on it.
Yeah. You got to find a way to want him. If he is that,
if he's what Mel Kiper just said, then just pick him and be done with it.
Be done with it.
The Raiders at 6 take your guy, McMillan from Arizona. Big fan. Ashton Genty goes to Denver at 20, the running back out of Boise State. Mr.
One thing I should also add to further discussion, we didn't read what the Titans write-up said.
Oh, go ahead.
This is the second part of it. I'm sure new general manager Mike Borgonzi will listen to trade offers here, but his real decision should come down to Ward versus Sanders. So if that's the case, again, I actually have Sanders ranked one spot ahead of Ward on my big board. Ward has the early top pick buzz around the league, though, so that's where I'm leaning for now. He extends plays with his creativity, mobility, and strong arm. Ward led the nation with 39 touchdown passes, and he'd help put the Titans back on track. So he's got Sanders and Ward are 3-4 on his big board. So if you're picking two because of positional importance, that doesn't matter. It's not like these guys are 30 and 25
You're
and
not
30.
Forcing it.
It doesn't feel that way.
According to Kiper, you're not.
Right. Well,
he has him 3-4. So, by the way, if that was the conversation at 1, then at 2, you take the kid.
That's right.
That's what you do. A couple of other AFC North mock picks.
I need to watch them. I got some vacation time coming up. I got to watch. Get a real dive in on these quarterbacks.
Yeah, Shadur's going to be interesting for you because
you're not going to be doing anything else.
It's a lot like Caleb. That's a low blow out of you. It's a lot like Caleb at USC. Bad habits because of offensive line play. Scheme was there, but just bad habits. I mean, he's going to need to coach him up. That's the job. The Pukers getting Emeka Buka at 21 overall. No thanks to that. Siobhan Revel going to the Ravens, 27th overall. 2 Buckeyes in round 1, Abuka and Josh Simmons.
So this is just kind of a tie-in because we've mentioned his name so often. Will Howard in PFF's mock draft.
Yeah.
They've got Will Howard going pick 92 of the 3rd round to the Jets. He's prospect number 98 on their big board.
So much came so late with him.
Yeah.
He was great in the Oregon game, but what he was the last 4 games of the season was he led college football in QBR. His QBR in the national championship game was 99.1 out of 100. So
take that for what it's worth.
That's what he did. And they played 4 really good defenses. Now they have star talent, no doubt, and that's what makes Ohio State quarterbacks tough. But they did go. Tennessee's defense is real. Oregon's defense is real. Texas' defense is really real. And Notre Dame's really good too. So he played really well in those games.
Yep.
So something to watch for there. We'll play a little higher, lower coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Howard Hanna, official real estate provider for your Cleveland Browns, exclusive buyer agent here to help you navigate the field, save time and money, and score that winning goal. A new home. Win big with the leader in real estate. Visit howardhanna.com/go Browns today for more. Time for a little higher or lower. Hello, Gibbe.
Hi, gentlemen. I figured we just have a quick conversation about this real quick.
Let's do it. This
is ESPN's top 100 players from the college football season. Okay? 10 Buckeyes make the top 100 list.
Yep.
Can you guess them?
Howard, Jeremiah, Travion, Quinshon, Donovan.
Caleb Downs.
Downs, Sawyer.
College football, Nate.
Owen Jackson. Emeka.
It went so quick, I'm not sure if I got all those or not.
I got 8. JT Tuimoloau.
Yep. He was number 35.
Do you have the left tackle?
Lathan, I do, yeah. Lathan Ransom.
Yes, number 60.
Okay, that's got to be. That's the 10.
That's 10.
Those would be the 10, I would think.
So,
Seth McLaughlin would be on there too because
number 82.
I forget about him, but he got hurt.
Yes,
he got hurt.
There you go.
So did I get them all?
I don't know. So 83 was Trevion Henderson.
Yep.
Yeah.
82 was McLaughlin.
Yep.
78 Ibuka.
Yep.
60 is Ransom. 57 is Will Howard.
Yep.
We talked about JT at number 35. Donovan Jackson at 32.
Yep.
Jack Sawyer at 22. Caleb Downs at 18.
That's too low.
And Jeremiah Smith at number 5.
Caleb Downs
going to be a 99.
So they don't have Quinshon on it. Was
Correct.
The one. So that was the swap, is they didn't have Quinshon on it. I can get that. I think that him and Trey are almost. You kind of have to have both. Like, you know, they both had 2,000-yard receivers and 2,000-yard backs this year.
That's
both
crazy.
Those backs went over 1,000 yards, and both the top 2 receivers did as well.
The number one player in college football, according to ESPN.com, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, it should be. There was no precedent for what he did. I'm assuming Genty was second.
Genty second. Cam 2. Ward third. Cam Scadaboo fourth.
That's too high for Scadaboo. That's recency bias on Scadaboo.
Jeremiah Smith fifth.
Cam Scadaboo should not be ahead of Dylan Gabriel.
Tyler Warren 6th, Kelvin Banks 7, Abdul Carter 8, Dylan Gabriel 9.
No, it's silly.
Kyle Kennard from South Carolina 10, Mason Graham 11, Harold Fannin Jr.
Let's go, baby!
Number 12, Xavier Watts 13, Jade Barron from Texas 14, Jalen Walker, linebacker Georgia 15, Dylan Sampson, the running back out of Tennessee 16, Caleb Johnson from Iowa is 17, Caleb Downs 18, Donovan Izirako from Boston College.
Sure.
19. Shedeur Sanders, 20.
I feel like that should be a little higher.
Well, if you just do the quarterback, I mean, Cam is the first-team All-American quarterback. Him or Dylan Gabriel, they were the 2 Heisman finalists, were those 2. So he's third, right? Shedeur is the 3rd quarterback out of the top 100. That's probably fair.
Is Gabriel –
He's just
so
size.
I only watched the 2 games against the Buckeyes, to be fair, of his, and he did not jump out to me as –
in the first one, he was great.
He was great, but it still didn't jump out to me. It felt very – if you – like he could operate a system. So he could be somebody that could fit here. But he's not – he's never going to be in the –
No. He's got a little bit of scoot. He can't really – he doesn't drive it well.
No, and that was really apparent in the second game.
Ohio State game, it was very clear. He was confused by what Ohio State was doing in the back end.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of stuff in the back end that day. But, yeah, I think it's a little bit of recency bias on him in terms of the last time you saw him. He was the quarterback on the number 1 team in the country that was undefeated.
Yep.
And was awesome throughout the year. And just the last memory of him is at Rose Bowl. Conversely, like, I don't know if anybody knew who Cam Scadaboo was until they played Texas.
Yeah. Is Cade Klubnik? Is that guy?
He was the number 1 recruit in the country coming out of high school. He started almost immediately at Clemson. He's an Austin kid.
Yeah.
I want to say either Westlake or the other one. One of them, it doesn't matter. Lake Travis or Westlake. He's from one of them in Austin. He will be a 4-year starter at Clemson. He's gotten incrementally better every year. I I don't know that he would have what you would describe as elite arm strength. That's the thing. Like him and Quinn played in the state championship game, and Quinn was the thrower, and Klubnik was kind of the thrower and runner.
Got it.
So it was the arm talent he was always kind of in the shadow of Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
Even though he's, I guess Quinn was a year younger than him because Quinn left school a year early.
So it says he was 53rd. It says he will be one of the favorites for the Heisman in 2025.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be in the mix. I tell you what, if you got some softer and Jeremiah Smith, I'd throw some on that. I think he's going to have 1,600 yards.
I think he's going off at 12-1.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's going to go quarterbacks.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Where would you, real quick, in our final 30 seconds, where would you put Caleb Downs?
I would have had him probably right around between like 8 and 12.
Okay.
I think if you don't watch – Tyvus talked me into this. So I watched all 22 this would have been about middle of the season because I'm like, I don't see him in the frame a lot. And he's like, watch this. So then I watched like 5 games of him and I went, oh, he's doing everything.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. Yeah. And he'll be, he's going to have he'll have in terms of like the status that he'll bring into next year. You're talking about a 2-time All-American as a true sophomore, consensus All-American as a true sophomore. He will come into the season kind of with the hype that like Ed Reed or Sean Taylor had going into those Mike Doss, like that last season. Like that's the type of hype that he'll have going into that. So a lot of fun. So much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, so this is going to warm up. That's where we're at.
Somewhat.
It's going to start to get a
Not
little warmer. You have some respite coming your way.
Yes.
So I'll be rolling solo here for the next couple of days. It's great to enjoy yourself, buddy. Well deserved.
Thank you, man.
Been since June, since you've had a breather.
Since July, and
July. Yeah.
The last time I was talking with Miss Kay. Last time we went on a trip. This one I'm going
30.
Last time that we went on, that she was on an airplane. We flew down to Georgia, and then her appendix burst, and we drove home from Georgia. So that was the last trip that we were on, which was a week and a half before the Greenbrier. That's the last time off we had.
It seems like 7 years ago.
Boy, does
enjoy that.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your week, brother. Much deserved. We will hear from offense coordinator Tommy Reese tomorrow on the program. Thanks for listening, everybody. The Next Level is coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.